Hello, hello. Is anybody there yet? Got a few minutes before we start this tour. Welcome to Ellicott City, Maryland, the most haunted city in Maryland, maybe the most haunted city on the eastern seaboard, and I'd be willing to bet one of the most haunted areas in all of the U.S. Um, seriously, a lot of things go into that, which helps make, how should I say, it helps make the conditions for paranormal activity even more prominent. So, go figure. Go figure. Let's see, what are we doing? 11:27. Got 3 minutes. So, I think that um, uh, I think you all can hear the rushing water behind me. You'll get to see it shortly. Promise. I'm just sitting here waiting for somebody to join me. I should be everywhere. I know this tour was listed on Together Virtually. Oh my goodness, I love this new platform. It is so great. Really, really. Um, when Hago crashed, I was just getting started as a guide and didn't have a lot of experience, but knew what to do, and it was kind of fun. So for me, it was, uh, I got to go out and play and take people with me. Okay, okay. So that worked out, really well. And then when they went out of business, oh my goodness, um, I had to do it on my own. So at the time, I did have a YouTube account, but never used it. So I had net followers. So um, luckily, I was able to go live on Facebook. And then I discovered a platform that let me broadcast to several locations and bypass all the subscriber and number of view requirements that YouTube had, because I didn't have that. I think I had, at the time, I probably had 18 subscribers. What did they subscribe to? I have no idea, because I didn't do anything with the channel until, I guess, last year. So are we time yet? Almost. It's 11:29. Wish I could see better. Yeah, maybe if I hold it out. Oops. Oh, dropped my cheat sheets. Okay. All right. It's 11:30. Welcome, welcome. This is Sharon Schultz, probably better known in the guide world as the Bay Lady. I am, you can currently find me listed on Together Virtually, the new platform that is hosting a large number of the ex-Hago guides that everybody loved. We're all back on Together Virtually. You can also see me on Facebook Live and on YouTube as well. So, in fact, it should be running on all of those plus Twitter at the moment, but I never know how accurate that would be. This is the second of my Ellicott City tours. There's so much here. They're done in parts. Um, it really is an amazing place that you're about to see for sure. Let's see what else. So, oh yeah, if you want to, I have more to schedule. There's more parts coming up. So you might want to subscribe to my YouTube channel and like me on Facebook so that you can get notices and keep up with the tours I have going on. So it just makes sense. on any of those platforms, if you are of a mind to support my platform, there's a couple of options that you have. One is buy me a coffee, and the other is PayPal, uh, where they would gladly accept tips for the daily. um, the only funding that I have is through the generosity of the people who accompany me on these crazy little adventures. So, without further ado, here we are in Ellicott City, and I am going to turn the camera around so you can see what I see. Doesn't that sound like a Christmas song? Can you see what I see? Righty. Yay. All right, there you go. And where I want where I want you to go is to look at these waterfalls. Check them out. There's two. This is the Tiber River. Okay, this river begins further uphill. Further uphill, there's Amy waving at us, my daughter, and it runs clear down to the bottom of the hill, and the hill being Main Street, by the railroad station, the Railroad Museum. So when it comes to uh, some of the things that happen here in Ellicott City, flooding is a main concern. The last two heartbreaking floods that occurred here was in 2016, and then 666 days later in 2018. And those particular floods started here. Generally, the flood of 1868 that took out a row of homes and its occupants, that generated from the Patapsco River, from just being swollen and overflowing its banks and carrying debris with it, where this river, okay, becomes a puddle at the bottom. It runs into the Patapsco and floods it. And as I said, this was the cause of some major destruction in 2016, 2018, having damaging the buildings at the lower end, and a couple of people lost their lives in those floods as well. So um, and know that this river runs all the way down Main Street, like down the middle of Main Street, because it's running under the buildings that are on Main Street. You'll see more evidence of that in a little bit. Okay, so you know that the fact that Ellicott City is in a valley surrounded by 7 hills, and those hills are made of granite. And it's a specific kind of granite which you can only find here, apparently, so I'm told. And it's the granite and the power of the rivers that are conducive to paranormal activities. So the experts tell us the granite, this particular kind of granite, just sucks up all the power that the water generates. And like one of the stories on the lower end of Main Street, where an escaped Confederate soldier was shot by some Union soldiers right next to the train tracks, that scene of that Confederate soldier tumbling down the stairs gets replayed. People have seen it. It's like a recording. So these buildings right here, this is the backside of Tung Row. Tung Row was built um, for the people that worked in the mill. There was a woman, Mrs. Tung. Oh, here's a little market. Mrs. Tung, a woman that owned these buildings and uh, rented them out to the workers. So these buildings are old, like everything else in Ellicott City. Ellicott City was founded in 1772. It was incorporated then. So it's been around for a while. Ellicott City, as I said, is surrounded by seven hills, and really you can see all the layers if you look at the houses up on top of the hill. There, Ellicott City is totally about hills and houses and stairways. Oh my goodness, there are so many of these sets of stairs so people can cut across to the next hill level. It's kind of interesting, really. So now we're going up these stone steps. They're kind of all over the place, right? So not even. I know. Well, they're old. They're not going to be so very even. So yeah. So tongue row. This is the front side of it. We're on Old Columbia Pike. Uh, one of the well, there's only two main roads that run through Ellicott City, and this is one of them. So, and as you can see, tongue row. It's a series of, I think, 4 or 5 houses, double story. Right? Um, the the these there's 6 homes. Whoa, there's 6 homes, and they were, as I said, given to families that were mill workers. And so, right now, decades later, you've got shops. Well, these shops are not without their own little paranormal activity as well. Again, we're talking river and stone, right? And so, let's see, currently the store owners in modern times here have noted things like a chilly feeling, you know, or feeling like a chilly hand touching your shoulder, and little things that go bump in the night, of course, are still here. They hear whispers when there's nobody about. They've reported footsteps where there was nobody about. And they have things disappearing and things being knocked over. Um, one of the spirits, a young girl that they call Cecilia, has been seen walking through the upstairs rooms at night, right? And they have said that she scares the shopkeepers by day when she tugs on their sleeve to get their attention. And also, let's see, in one of these stores, when it was a beauty salon, the one of the beauticians was cutting the client's hair, and she looked up in time to see like a misty shape of a female float up the stairwell behind them and disappear right before their eyes. So kind of interesting. But now these are shopkeepers, as you can see in the window here. It's a jewelry store. I'm sure it's handmade. Yeah, it's called High Hole Silver, hand-worked gold and silver. Definitely. Yeah, pretty. Okay, across the street. This is Taylor's Row livery stables, okay? These used to be the stables where people in Ellicott City could stable their horses. And like they also had, they rented horses. You could rent carriages and all of that. There was a full, full service livery, whatever that means. And you can see the doors up above the windows. That's the loft where they kept the hay for the horses, right? Hay loft. Okay. So it started off in the mid 1800s as a livery stable. And they as I said, people would leave their horses here, and they had hay for them to feed them that was kept on in the hay loft. You know where that term comes from, right? So today it is not a livery station, but a full service restaurant. Okay. It's called the Manor Hill Tavern. And this place is really popping on the weekends, I have to say. But yeah, so today it's a tavern, but not without its issues. Okay. Um, no, there's a spirit here, and she's known as the Lady in White. And they've seen her floating around the premises, particularly in the bar area of the restaurant. Employees have found like table place settings overturned and blown out candles relit, and unexplained noises, crashes, what have you. Could this be the spirit of a woman who was attacked and killed in these very stables long, long ago? You never know. Here's another angle of the uh, Tongro houses, and here's part of where we were on the other side of this building. You can see the deck and the gardens, and if we look over here, you can hear the river. Yeah, there it is over against the rock wall there. This is outdoor restaurant. This is the outdoor garden that goes with the manor house next door. So they have this outdoor seating as well. In the nicer weather, they usually have tables and things set up and chairs, and it looks like one of their heat things took a tumble there and got bent.
A lot of the restaurants have like outdoor patios, like
Yeah.
just across the way.
Yep. Yeah, they do. Some of them, ooh, something. Guy stepped in taters. And see, here's the back of the houses. Now these houses that you're looking at are on Main Street. And again, talking about the different layers in the hills, look up. You've got two more levels up there, that brown house and the gray house, and then the church, and then right the courthouse. That's the courthouse and one of the churches. And even down here, you can see the layers. They just go on up. And the thing is, there's a lot of water here, and so it all comes downhill and it all settles here in the valley. It's just the nature of the beast, basically. Okay, this is an interesting area. Up that hill is the old Quaker cemetery. The Ellicott brothers were from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and they were Quakers. And so there were several Quaker schools here, and meeting houses, and churches. And there's a cemetery up top there that is Quaker Cemetery. I've been trying to find a way to get up there, and I kind of did, but it's private property and was gated off. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But anyway, oh, the sun is horribly in my eyes. I don't know if you can even see this building. Um, just cross the street. That might be better. Yeah, there we go. Now you can see it. This home belonged to a gentleman by the name of John Day. You see all the stone. Look at that. Surrounded by stone. Now, John Day was an interesting kind of fella, and so is this house, because John Day was a stonemason, yet he built his home of brick. One of the few brick structures that you'll see in Ellicott City, right? So, anyway, this house has been many things over the hundreds of years. Has been private residence, which it is again. It's also been home to several business establishments. I love that half floor up there with the tiny windows. Um, at one point, it was an upscale beauty salon, and it had a ghost, and her name was Susan. And she made her presence known to the nervous hairstylists and customers. She never actually materialized as a spirit, but rather people sense her presence. Could she be a resident of the cemetery up behind the house? Possible. Also, there's a second ghost running around John Day's house. His name is Casper, Casper the cat, and he's a flurried blur that streaks across the room and disappears right into the wall. Ha ha. All right, off to our next stop. Just a little bit of a walk, but gives you a chance to see some of the scenery and the things going on here. Dead ahead is the old Howard Hotel, and I've got some stories for you there. But first, we're taking a detour up the hill, getting closer to that Quaker cemetery. We're kind of like circling it. Look at that. Even their gardens are on different levels. I used to work at the courthouse decades ago, and we only had a certain amount of time for lunch, right? And they had the best food down here on Main Street. So we wanted to make the most of it. So all these little stairs and things you see, well, we knew them well, and we would come down all these flights of stairs and get our lunch. But then uphill, yeah. We would eat our lunch down here and then walk it off, getting back to work, getting back up the hill with all those stairs. Ooh la la! This is a hair salon now. It wasn't always, though. You see the church and the courthouse up there. Okay, so this ooh la la salon wasn't always ooh la la. It wasn't always a salon. As a matter of fact, it was a garage. It was Al's garage. Okay, Al owned it. Um, it was probably built in the 1920s. This garage, this building. There you go, out of the sun. Okay. Um, yeah, probably built in the 1920s. It it's a one-story cinder block, and it is historically known as the Ridgely Building over time. And it's just down the hill from the Ellicott family cemetery, which is Quaker cemetery as well, um, just up the hill on the banks of Cat Run Rock, which is a branch of the Tiber River that runs underneath everything. So, some people, however, believe that this garage was built on the site of an old cemetery that had been moved to another location. So, an elderly resident of Ellicott City, and this story comes from years ago because this elderly resident was a little boy in July of 1864 when the Battle of Monocacy was fought by Union and Confederate troops. And he said that he saw Union soldiers killed in action, buried on site of the garage until their families came to claim their remains. Those unlucky not to be claimed may still rest below the concrete building that's currently a hair salon. After the major battles, steady streams of captured and wounded Confederate soldiers kind of streamed into Ellicott Mills, as it was known then, many on their way to prison camps in Baltimore. Many of the Confederate soldiers, um, many of the Confederate soldiers who died from their injuries were buried in the Friends Quaker Cemetery, where some still lie to this day. Albert Bear, Al, owned the shop from the late 1900s until his death in 2001 from a fatal heart attack he suffered while on the job here at the garage. He died here in the building. Um, so several businesses have been in here since Al over the years, and
Get out of the parking lot.
oh, several different businesses have been here, and one was uh, a store that was owned by Chester Overlock. Okay, so Overlock comes to his store one morning and he sees a man leaning against the wall before the shop had opened. When he called out, the stranger vanished, of course. um, when Overlock described the man that he saw to a friend, he said it sounded just like the previous owner, Al Bear. And the area where Overlock spied the apparition was right where Al's desk sat when it was an auto shop. Over the years, others have seen these shadowy figures, and could it be that Al's still coming to work and keeping an eye on things? Stranger things have occurred. And here again, here's more houses, the backs of them on Main Street, and the river runs on down the hill between them. Interesting, this town, how it was developed, and um, it's definitely here to stay. This town has been through so much, and its residents, and they just recover and keep on moving along, keep on moving forward. This is a nice little piece of art here on the side of the building. Um, Ellicott City really is kind of an artsy community. There's a lot of galleries
Very
here.
artsy.
Yeah, a lot of galleries, jewelry shops, and these are like, like here at Playground. These are one of a kind. They're not chain stores. I don't think you'll find any chain stores here in Ellicott
Yeah,
City.
they're all small business owners.
Yeah,
Private.
right, and a lot of them are also area residents as well. And if
Locally owned.
right, and if you notice, a lot of these buildings above the shops are apartments. So, people have, oops, oh, look, chocolate, sweet, sweet cascades, chocolatier. Ooh, ooh, yeah, 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 really. Gee, I wish I knew some ghost stories we could go in. Okay, our next stop is coming up here. This is one of my favorite buildings coming up here. Actually, I'm gonna have to come back. This building here, the furniture towers. Oh my goodness, this store's been here for generations, for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's been many things. Now it is this ginormous, amazing toy store. Really. Oh, look at this Lego roller coaster. They change things. They have different things here all the time. Oh, look at that. It's a Lego amusement park.
Yeah, they got
Yeah.
teacups, the
Oh, and you know
Ferris
what? It
wheel.
runs too. That train runs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because everything that they put here is motorized. One day I was here looking in the window, and the guy came out and turned the
Little
power on.
Lego people.
Yeah.
Trees in the park.
Flowers. Cute details.
It's like the Macy's window.
Right? It's fun to window shop at Ellicott City. I've done a couple tours where it wasn't ghost related. I just window shop. A lot of cute things. Oh, I did that at Christmas time. That's what it was. Okay, right here. Ta ta! This was originally the Ellicott's Country Store. It was initially called the Walker Chandler House. It was a private residence built in 1790. Because of its size, the owner would let rooms to travelers when the hotels were full. For instance, that's the Howard Hotel right there. So they would, rent rooms as needed. So, according to legend, the first owner, Mr. Walker, fell to his death from the second floor balcony that overlooks Main Street. You're looking at that right now with the umbrellas. Okay. Um, the circumstances surrounding his death are pretty sketchy. And they said Walker took the knowledge from his last moments to the grave with him. Down through the centuries, this home also served as a funeral home, a tavern, Red Cross offices, a telephone company, and then the first of its kind general store that opened in 1962. Today, the Syriana Cafe occupies all four floors and they're all open to the public. There's meeting rooms, eating areas, loungers, sitting rooms. Oh my goodness. It yeah, if you look on my YouTube channel, The Day Lady, I have a video of inside of this building that I did one day while I was having coffee in here. So it's interesting. I'm going to check it out. Um, anyway, so now you can, it's a full service restaurant. And as for the first owner, Mr. Walker, people say that you can see him falling off the balcony. Always on moonless nights. That's what they say. Moonless nights. I always thought things happened with the full moon, but not in Ellicott City's ghost community. It's on moonless nights. So moonless nights, you can see this guy taking a dive off the balcony. Fun, right? Okay. Oh, also what I want to say is see that big boulder there. Some of these buildings that you're looking at are actually built right into the rock. Their back wall is rock, seriously. So kind of a unusual type of architecture found here among everything else that's unusual found here.
Zero escape, no escape.
Seriously. Isn't that the truth?
Now this building looks wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this building definitely has a history. It is the historic Howard House Hotel slash apartments. Howard House, circa 1860, right? Um, it's a five-story building and it is built into the rock. The rock forms the walls behind the building. Looking at the front of it,
Looks like it's 6 stories.
yeah, it's five plus
The base
yeah, well,
or
one,
the
two,
attic.
yeah, plus the attic. Um, let's see, uh, when you look at the front of the hotel, it's the third floor. That is the ground floor on the other side of the hill.
Oh, so right where the
Yeah, yeah,
flamingos are.
yeah, yeah.
Or the
That
small ones.
right. There's an entrance on the back that lets you out on the street behind it and up a bit. In fact, that when I was working at the courthouse and wanted to come to lunch, we would take all these stair shortcuts, and then we'd go in the back of the hotel and come down out the front and down the street. It was cool. It was an adventure just to go get lunch, right? So
What
anyway,
entrance leads you where?
exactly. So at one time, this was the preferred um, hotel and restaurant in the area. The dining room was on the second floor, and then they had rooms up above. Um, over the decades, hundreds of former guests, residents, shopkeepers, staff have walked those worn floorboards that still exist in the house. While it's assumed they all checked out, maybe not all of them did. One deceased Howard House apartment dweller from the top floor, Dennis, he stayed. The tenants hear odd, unexplained sounds like hands clanging and in the middle of the night and there's no one around. So one tenant that was living there asked a friend who was a psychic to house sit her apartment while she was away on vacation. And when she returned, her friend had not only seen the ghost, but had spoken to him as well. Dennis was the name of a young man who was killed during the construction of the building, which began in the 1850s. And the boy had fallen through the roof on the church road side of the structure, which is the street behind. Um, and died in the space between the tenant's kitchen and the living room, just where she had previously felt unexplained cold spots and such. If the spirit is Dennis, then he's in good company with the others who may have passed between these old walls here. Okay, further up the street, off we go. We've got a green light today. Okay, well, we had a green light. He just took it from us. Oh, and it got recorded for posterity. Look at that. Mhm. What? What was
I don't
that?
know.
Something clanged. You know what? There's nothing coming except for this
No, we
one
gotta
car.
wait.
Oh, well, we got it now.
Oh, it says stop.
It says, that's all right. Mhm. This is the old firehouse right here. I don't know any stories about it. It's the Firehouse Museum at the moment. This was an old movie theater. Now it's called the Crazy Nation. It's an ice cream place, milkshake bar of sorts. So, righty, up and onward. Another example of the layering of Ellicott Mills. It was called Ellicott Mills initially, and then it was changed to Ellicott City as time went on. This is definitely an uphill walk. Now, also want to show you, look how close, look how close to the edge of that cliff those homes are. Oh my goodness. Yeah, be up here. Okay. Um, and see the rock? There's the rock. Can't get away from the rock. Not at all. Right here, this building, right now, this is home to the Howard County Visitor Center. These folks here uh, do things like the ghost tours, where they have people, you know, dressed in a costume that will take you around and tell you the spooky stories that I'm telling you. I've been on their ghost tours numerous times. So, yeah. So, this building here, it was post office. Before that, it was a funeral home. There were four funeral homes on Main Street at one time. I guess with all the death and destruction and accidents, you know, who knows? Anyway, let's see, who's talking? You haven't been in Ellicott City. Oh, it's a great place to come visit. I know that. Definitely. Yeah. Anyway, so this spot was occupied by a funeral home and a couple of private residences. And so it was torn down, and built in its place was this post office. And it stayed a post office for many years until it moved to a bigger and badder one. And then the Welcome Center, the county took it over, which was nice. But it has stories too. So let's see. It It was dedicated as a post office in 1940. Okay, before that, it held individual buildings here, the funeral home, and three others here on Main Street. So it stayed a funeral home, just had new owners um, until it was torn down for about 70 years. So it would figure that 70 years worth of bodies passing through this building, some might definitely linger or stay. So um, the theory is that these ghosts could be attached to the last place where they felt human touch. Okay, the Undertaker, right? And or perhaps they've lost their way. But things go bump in the night here quite often, and before it happens, there is the scent of flowers, strong scent of flowers, as in funeral flowers, right? Just like the smell. And so these things have been experienced by employees and visitors to the building. When the tourism office moved to the first floor, then they had their first official ghost sighting. That was the employee who smelled the roses. She also saw the spirit long enough to be able to describe her, and she became a topic of conversation. This spiritual woman did, so they decided to give her a name. So as the discussion turned in that direction, the lights in the room began to flicker, and then the phone rang, but there wasn't anybody there when they answered. So the staff decided to call this ghost Caroline, but the strange noises persisted, even increased, as did the sickeningly sweet smell of funeral flowers. So it was a customer who set it all straight. When she had come into the building and she sensed the spirit, it seemed the spirit wanted her to tell the staff that her name wasn't Caroline, but something that began with an L. The ghostly woman with the floral set is now called Louisa. And there is no more bumps in the night, only the scent of funeral flowers, of course. Okay, let's move on up the street here. My daughter gave up and went back to the car. I don't think she was feeling too well. Plus, it's a little chilly out here today. They said the temperature would be in the mid 40s Fahrenheit, but with the wind chill, they said consider it to feel like the 30s. So, hmm. This is an exclusive French restaurant. I have not been in here. Ooh, look at that. I have not been in here. They have one meal. Okay, it's interesting how they do this. Okay, the chef's menu, um, it's 99 bucks, and what you get is whatever the chef is preparing. It's a French country restaurant. It's kind of interesting. And right here we've got Mexican food, su casa. But over here is the old Disney Tavern. Disney not as in Walt, however, just the Disney Tavern. This is one of the oldest buildings still standing in Ellicott City, probably because it's up here on the hill instead of down in the valley. So, yeah, um, it's a stone duplex. There's stone behind it. It is, let's see, 2.5 stories tall, and it dates back to 1790. It was called Deborah Disney's Tavern, and it had 200 years as a tavern, changing hands along the way, obviously, but still, it was a steady 200 years. So this place has, you know, definitely seen some stories. It was one of the last taverns in town before you went out of town. This is Main Street, also known as Frederick Road, and the town ends just a few blocks up. So if you were, back in that time and you wanted a drink before you hit the road, this would be the place that you might come. Let's see what else. So this ghost tale is more modern though. It was during its life that put it in my pocket. Dur- During the life of this building, the it was a bookstore for a while, and there was a resident here in Ellicott City. Her name was Bernice Jackson, and she used to love to come to this bookstore. And actually, if you look, the door on the left, that's Grandpa's attic books. So half of it is still a bookstore. Anyway, back to that story. Bernice used to come up and down these shops all the time, and she really liked this one. And the owners of these shops that were familiar with her, they would know that she was about to walk in before she actually did, because she had a distinctive perfume that was hers. It was a perfume, her signature perfume that she wore, and the people in the stores would get a whiff of it and know she was about to turn the corner there. So they lovingly teased her and called her the Duchess of Main Street, and she lived with her husband Walter in the apartment behind the shop here, where she died in 2002. Today, they say she continues visiting the shops on Main Street. People have reported, shop owners, first they see a shadow and then they smell the cologne. Interesting, right? Very interesting. Right next door is an interesting building as well. This is the Phoenix Restaurant, and it's one of the older establishments here in Ellicott City. It used to its original location was at the foot of Main Street on this side, and I know they redid that poor building so many times because it was always one of the first to flood. And that last storm, the last flood in 2018, they gave it up. They gave it up. The building still stands, but the restaurant's here. But it's in also a interesting location. This was initially it was the Talbert Lumber Company, and it also had a tavern that was popular with locals. And then over time, I guess it started with a tavern, and then it changed hands and all. And then in 1905, it became a lumber yard and remained a lumber yard until 1991. And that's when these new owners took it, having survived serious damage from the 2018 floods. So, anyway, it is here within these walls that the Shadow Man lives. That's right, the Shadow Man. Okay, this is his forever home. During the Great Depression, 1929, many well to do families found themselves in dire financial straits, and the Talberts were no exception. In order to keep their business running, they had to make cutbacks, and cutbacks unfortunately meant layoffs. And so they laid off their accountant, and the loss of his job was just the start of many disasters that this poor man suffered. Um, First of all, when he lost his job, then his wife was upset, and so he lost her too. She divorced him, and then he became homeless and ended up living in the woods by the riverbank, by the mill, down the bottom of the hill, right? So it was on a long holiday weekend when some people, townspeople, saw him running through the woods acting crazy. So they called the police. The police came to check on him, and the accountant ran. And then they attempted to chase him, but got another call over the radio and went to pursue that instead. So when the business reopened after that holiday weekend on that Tuesday morning, the manager of Ellicott Mills store made a very gruesome discovery. He saw a shadow swaying in the stairwell, and it was his former accountant who had hung himself from the second floor rafters. What was the most stunning thing about this was the police report. The police report that gave him the time of death is Friday evening before the weekend began. So, who was it that everybody saw running through the woods that weekend? And meanwhile, back at the brewery, the employees report hearing noises that shouldn't be, whispers from voices not there, footfalls without feet, and a mysterious lighted candle in the window of an upstairs room when no one is home. Could be the shadow man voicing or stating his displeasure. Okay, now we've got one more. It's a little ways up the hill here. Well, this one, not that one. Yeah, the house, the next one is across from that log cabin. Yep. Oh yeah, the stairs back here. I don't know if you can see. Well, you can't really see the area, but those stairs are actually a water filtration system. Yep, they're a water filtration system. It gives the water like coming down off the hill where the courthouse and that church is. It gives it an outlet, so it gets filtered into the ground and redirected so it doesn't flood the river. There's a river running over there as well under those buildings. Amazing. Oh yeah, that one right there. If they're open. Yeah, that's the one I was saying. It is. Okay, the firehouse. Um, well, there's a story here. It's the wine bin today, but once upon a time it was a firehouse. And one night everybody was in the firehouse, they were waiting on a call or whatever, and they were discussing this problem that they'd been having, um, about like when they go out on a fire, they'd lock the doors, right, and seal everything up, and when they came back, the doors would be wide open, so they couldn't figure out what was going on. Well, then one night they're all in there, and of course they have a fire dog, and the dog suddenly starts barking at the front door, and they don't know why. Nobody's there. He's barking and all. And then he runs down the hallway and starts barking at the door at the end of the hallway. Well, the door at the end of the hallway was the room that a former fire chief had occupied, and he had passed away. So they assumed that the dog was following, like, the fire chief coming in the front door and going back to his room. So they feel that he's there just kind of watching over, taking care, what have you. Okay, lastly, oh, it's not open even. This is the judge's bench. I used to eat lunch here when I was at the courthouse in very many years ago. Very many years ago. Okay, so this building, this is a tragic story. I have to say. Let me move back a little bit so you can see the upper floors. That. Okay, so this is another of Ellicott City's older neighborhood bars. As I said, I went to lunch here, and that must have been in the 1970s. Okay, 1970s. Anyway, so this sits on a contract of land that it has been like several different things. There's a census report from 1880 that shows it as a confectionery shop with a family living in the apartment above. The Frost family had kept the property for almost 100 years. They kept it in the family. They owned it for almost 100 years before they sold it in the 1940s. So then it became a grocery store for the next 20 years under the ownership of Joseph and Mary Berger. And so they ran the grocery store and lived in the apartments upstairs. Um, at the time, though, well, okay, and then it was called Joe Berger's Grocery Store. And this was in 1962. Now, in 1962, what you see of Ellicott Mills, Ellicott City, it didn't look like this. It wasn't this. It was nasty. It was a rundown old town that was plagued by too many bars, too many disorderly people, um, minor thefts. Just, it was just a royal pain here. So much so that Fort Meade, Fort George Meade, which is a really big army base not very far from here. At one point, okay, at one point, they restricted all military personnel from coming here to Ellicott City. It was that much of a problem, that much of a dive. But anyway, so here we go back to Joe Berger's grocery store, and they have a daughter, Mary, who is living in the apartment. But um, Ellicott City, as I said, was not the nice place it was. It was riddled with petty crimes committed by undesirables. Living in such a bad neighborhood, the Burgers kept a very close eye on their teenage daughter, Mary. She worked in the family's grocery store as well, serving customers. Her parents would not let her date any young men from Ellicott City. And she listened, she obeyed them, throughout her high school years. But there came a time when she met somebody. Uh, it was after graduation, and she met and fell in love with a young man from town who was a customer that she waited on. Her parents were so angry, even though the guy was from a good family, they made her break up. So, heartbroken, Mary waited until the store closed and her parents had gone out for the evening. She climbed up to the third floor attic. Uh, she threw a rope over the rafters, put one end around her neck, and hung herself. Now, customers reported seeing her spirit in the store shortly after her burial. Some thought they saw her standing in her usual place behind the counter. Others walking by at night claim to see her face peering out from that attic window. Her presence has been felt all over the house, but strongest in the attic where the hanging happened. Over the years, liquor bottles have been mysteriously disturbed, faucets turned on and off by some hidden energy, a roll of toilet paper completely unraveling in an empty bar. Most of the wait staff avoids going to the basement because they claim to have seen the ghost down there, and they've seen Mary in the basement. Now, one bartender who was a would-be sensitive claimed to have had conversations with a spirit called Mary whenever he caught sight of her floating by. The bartender claimed to be in love with the spirit of the young woman. Maybe Mary Berger finally got her Ellicott City man after all. All right, and there you have it. Haunted Ellicott City Ghost Tour number 2, Upper Main Street. Yeah, let me turn this beast around here. Next Tuesday, let's see where I want to go there. Next Tuesday is Haunted Ellicott City Ghost Tour. Come on. Number, let's see, hold on. I need this back there. Nope, back there. Come on. Okay, there I am. Okay. All right. So next Tuesday, lunchtime, Ellicott City tour number 3, Mount Misery. We're going up the hill to the courthouse and the church. We'll go visit them up front, close and personal, and learn about the various spirits that walk that hill, that own that hill. There's quite a few of them, actually. So, anyway, time for me to go find some lunch and enjoy the rest of your day. Don't forget, please like me on Facebook, subscribe to me on YouTube, and don't forget, I love coffee. Buy me a coffee. Take care. Bye.